give you a shot coming in here of the new grading. Back you out and give you a look from the front end. There you go. Looks pretty nice cut up like that. Makes me want to just plant it all, but we got to have a driveway here somewhere. So Sunday, July 21st, back up at the farm. And looking at, this looks like Colorado potato bug damage here. But it looks like it might be a day or two old. Yeah, it looks like it might be a day or two old. And I see new growth coming on these shoots. Like it's growing back from the damage. And I don't see any Colorado potato bug on it. So that's interesting. And of course, these are the healthier plant section here going down that way. You know, they get a little bit better going that way, and then they're about the same most of the way across. But looking over here, here's one hanging off a leaf. I wonder. Oh. I mean, I would say he looks even less mobile than the ones we were looking at the other day. No, actually, he's quite mobile. So I don't think I hit my formula quite strong enough to do these guys in yet. It seems like it slowed them down a little bit, but then, you know, we got them here, there. As we come down to this sicker plant here, they're all over this guy. And they're actively chewing away. So that makes me think maybe I should mix up a very small version of the foliar feed and try dosing a couple of plants here and see if we can't just knock these guys out and figure out what our proper formula rate is. I feel like I didn't put quite enough boron or rejuvenate in the mix. But yeah, I'll have to think about this some more, and we'll continue to monitor. And let's see, this coming week I'll be sending off plant sap samples, so by next week we should have plant sap analysis samples, and that'll tell us a lot more and give us a much better gauge on our crop. You know, and I'm focusing on the few plants here that have the Colorado potato bug, but in general we don't have a lot of that here in the crop, and instead what we have is a lot of really happy plants that look really good, and they're starting to pop into flower, and they have good vigor and vitality, and you know, turgor pressure. The stems are stemming up nice. There's good growth happening on them. They're cruising. They're doing well overall. I've had this Colorado potato bug wipe out crops before, and so I figure, well, I have the opportunity to figure it out and learn how to conquer it and get good at that. This is the time to do that, because I'm only going to scale up a whole lot bigger from here. You know, I mean, this is a scale up for me for sure, to go from the, you know, couple acres total to 8 acres. But I'm just getting started, and the bigger I go, the more efficient I have to be, and the more dialed in and tuned I have to be. And the other thing that will do, the plant sap analysis will give us a much better gauge on where our soil is at and what amendments we need to do here. You know, I do have the soil test stuff. I haven't actually gone over those with the YouTube viewers yet, but that's on the list. And we should remember that I had soil tests and recommended soil amendments, and I've not done any of those amendments yet this year due to financial limitations. So all of this health and vigor and vitality that you see is strictly based on the base soil that was here and my foliar feed program. That's it. We've had no irrigation, no amendments, except for the calcium sulfate that we put down to enhance the calcium and sulfur and to flocculate the soil. And again, that's more aimed at getting the soil going and letting the soil do the work. So, and then we're just enhancing and pumping that whole system through enhancing photosynthesis with foliar feeds, and that accelerates unlocking nutrients from the soil for our plants. So when I finally get back here and get good amendments down and get this soil balanced out like it should be, it's going to be even more amazing results. But I am very happy considering this is our first year out planting here. I really hadn't grown in this soil at all before. I've grown in soils that are similar, that are south of here, but never this particular soil. And we're having some really good results so far. So I'm quite happy with that, and quite glad to come up here and see large bushy rows of potato plants growing. I hope you guys are ready for some fries in the fall. So Sunday the 21st, came back up today. Now we got all cleared out and pre-cut basically, and just for ease of math, we're not doing any final staking here. I just want to get a cover crop in and have it be fairly on point and alignment fairly well. So I just came through with the disc. Our disc is 7 foot wide, so 3 passes wide with the disc gives us about 21 feet. So that's close enough to our 20-foot offset. That's going to bring us 20 foot further south here. So I just used that as a guide, and then I ran back and ran a north-south cut on everything to get it opened up again, so the buckwheat can blend into it. And I'm gonna go through here quick and put some buckwheat seed down. Just spread it by hand. Don't have any seeder equipment yet. And then I'm gonna come back and disc it in. I will probably overseed these areas outside of the grow area for lots of reasons. One, to keep our green and hold our moisture, and two, because, you know, it's really easy to get focused on, like, I have this area that I want to grow in, and that's all I need to amend. But the truth is, these microbial communities don't see those lines like we do, and they facilitate communication and nutrient exchange inside and outside of those boundaries that we see as so physical and so hardwired. They are not necessarily hardwired. So it doesn't hurt to overdo over plant a cover crop outside of your area. If you're amending, to over amend. If you're foliar feeding, it doesn't hurt to go a little wide too, you know. A little more buffer around the area you're growing in will only help you. It won't hurt you. Bucket. That's 20 pounds right there. And I'm just gonna go throw it on by hand. All right, so the disc works pretty well considering the absolutely rough shape it's in. But it does need some work. I don't know when I'm going to get back to it, but I need to get back up. I have 3 or maybe 4 of the discs that fell off. You know, those rocks are pretty rough on stuff. And this disc is old and beat all the hell, to be perfectly frank about it. But I'm going to try and weld a couple of these discs back on the end here and get it so we have a little more uniform cutting action. It's actually getting to a point where it kind of leaves like a little bit of a furrow on one side. So, and one side cuts and one side kind of doesn't. So I'm gonna have to get back up here with the welder and the gen set and do some welding. That's not gonna be today. That's probably not even gonna be this week, or maybe not even this month. But it's definitely on the list. And I'll just show you a close up here. You can see these things are, you know, they're beat up pretty well and they've separated from the hub. And I'd love to just replace these hubs, the whole thing, but yeah, they're pretty expensive, I'm guessing. They're, you know, cast with a bearing and a grease fitting and discs and all. Steel is not cheap these days. So I think we're going to try and patch and repair. But hey, the cover crop is in, it's disced in, and ready to grow. That should be up in like 4 or 5 days, I would think. Maybe 7 at the max. And I've got a new adapter for the hog here for now, so I can get this to run. I actually bought 2 of these so I can just get through. My plan was to change out this yoke, but I found an even better solution. Well, I didn't. My friend Dave found an even better solution. They actually make the PTO replacement shaft on the Ford that hooks up to this. So you can take that whole shaft out and put a standard 1 3/8 shaft like this is in there. And then we'll be able to connect to more common equipment very easily for PTO. So that'll be nice. So if you're looking at mulching some of these tomatoes, and I mistakenly hit them with a fork, but we got We got mushrooms growing in here already. We actually have mycelial communities absolutely exploding in here. And that actually calls my attention to another spot that I noticed a little while ago. I just been too preoccupied to get the camera. So here we are down on the far end, the south end of the potato row here. And I haven't refound the original spot, but there was a spot here where I was just looking at soil and I just bumped a clump away. I guess not there, but one of these spots where I bumped a clump away and I could literally see all the mycelia web through the soil. There's a little grub in there or something. I could see all the mycelia web through the soil from the inoculants where it had spread out and just erupted through all of this dying back material, this high lignin material, and started breaking it down. Part of that is the rejuvenate and available nitrogen here, but also part of that is the inoculants, the BioCoat Gold, the Spectrum DS. Those are huge for that, and they break these materials down very rapidly in the soil, so much so that once you get a mulch system going on top, you'll actually have trouble keeping up with mulch once you get that system cranking. You'd be surprised how fast you'd go through 6 or 8 inches of mulch well before you would expect it to melt down, and you'd be right back to bare soil again. Okay, so I'm looking at weed pressures here around these tomatoes. I don't know what this weed is. It's kind of a ground covery thing. It's clearly thinking about getting ready to go to flower and seed soon. But it's interesting, as I started to pull it away here, we can see how much, I can feel how wet this stuff is. It's actually very wet, like it's holding moisture. So as I'm pulling this away, you can see how much more moist it is underneath. This is an excellent example of how just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of green cover over a piece of soil will absolutely dramatically change the amount of moisture available right up to the soil surface. Again, these microclimates are something, if you pay close attention to, they'll teach you a tremendous amount about soils and soil health and how to manage soils and plants in a way that is much more beneficial and much more productive. Again, just going along this tomato row, just pulling a few weeds, not really weeding per se, but another mushroom, another cluster of mushrooms, another cluster of mushrooms. You know, all the really good organic farmers and teachers, they say you don't really get your soil badge until you have mushrooms growing in your garden beds. Well, look how quickly we did that. The soil was cut up in June, end of May, early June. We've already got mushrooms growing. That's how little damage we did to our soil biology and our mycology, and how well we've done a job at enhancing microbiology. And I haven't done all the things right. Again, I should have all of this mulched. This should be covered in green cover crops or mulch. So that's with just a little bit of the right tools. Wait until we get all the tools in play and you see just how much this system can be accelerated. It's going to blow your mind. I can't wait to show you. While we're down here, we should probably have a close look at a couple of these tomato plants, because I did not take you down close. These need to be staked up. And we're talking, a good 2.5 foot tall plant staked up. Bushy, large, robust, nice dark blue-green leaves. Very healthy, happy plants. So that's all a good sign. And now I got to keep up with them. Apologize for the dirty windshield, but it gets a little dirty around here when you're farming and such. Still got a little work on these ruts, but they're getting there. Not as bad as they were. Alright, now you're really fast. Let's keep it.
Keep your friends close and your farmers closer. Cheers.